Well, so these are the gold diggers, and welcome back again, by the way. So our project kind of changed from what we had earlier on. We had to fully pivot on the recommendation of our supervisor. So basically, I'm Luis, and then my other three colleagues, as you can see their names on their videos. So onto the next slide, basically what we are working on is a CGPA predicting model. So it's an artificial intelligence project whereby we are trying to build a model that can be able to predict a student's CGPA at the end of their year of study, just after just after 1 year of study at the college. So the contents of our presentation is basically going to be the introduction into what the project is, our problem statement, our objectives, the methodology, then the conclusion, and then a little references and acknowledgements. So to introduce the project, first of all, usually when interns or part-time students join the job process, grades, at least by narrative, are believed to be one of the core prerequisites into getting the job. But then as an intern or as a part-time student, usually I do not have my transcript, so it cannot give a basic, cannot give a visual understanding of my grades that I'm going to get. So what you're trying to do right now is build a software that we can use to simulate these results based on what somebody gets in that first year with a little variable inputs here and there with a high degree of accuracy to be able to enable people like the employers retain these guys after simulating their results because of a certain pattern. So onto the next slide, what we are going to say is that student results are usually the main metric. I think that's what I've been trying to talk about. They're like the main metric to provide employment. But then let me give you an example from a personal perspective. We did intern. It was kind of like awesome. One of my best times outside of studying. And then my skills weren't really fully everything. It was quite a competitive process. So grades eventually were to provide parts in trying to recruit who to stay or not. Something that I didn't have at the time because I was I'm still a student. I was a student, but there are those who had not completed, who had their transcripts and they were better. So that's like the core problem we're going to look into here. And onto the next slide, what you're going to see is our problem statement. First of all, I'm just going to read it for you. Currently, the job sector is taking in students at a very high rate from 7 on different criteria. To some, CGPA may not really be a very big issue. Some may prioritize experience, but that's subjective. It really varies. So by applying the best use of the students' available results, job providers can anticipate the GPA with which an intern or part-time student will graduate, and this will help the employees to make informed decisions on whether to retain them or not. Now, like I said earlier, CGPA is not everything, but it's a very big part of it. It's one of the very big criteria used to screen out job seekers in the job market. So that's what we're going to address in the problem set. Now, part of our objectives on the next slide, first of all, the main objective is to predict a CGPA with a very high degree of accuracy. But to be specific, we shall also be able to accurately extrapolate results on new and future students after a year of study. And then also we shall be able to determine the time period which a student will spend at the university. Now, first of all, in a hypothetical situation where a student knows that they may spend an extra year at the university, chances are very high they're going to try and work harder to be able to overturn that result. That in turn is actually going to be a good thing, incentivizing students to work hard because they, they can be able to tell the training in their results are not most likely to come out of it. So that's how those are part of our objectives. Then how we're going to do this is we're going to achieve through a quantitative simulation method, which will be conducted. So in this phase, The dataset will be prepared to be passed through visualization and clustering techniques. Like maybe in the dataset, data that gives a similar pattern can be mapped together. And then as a whole, once it's in a heap, it can again be used to, once it's like in a heap, it can again be clustered, and that same correlation, another correlation be determined from it. So not like map visualization and clustering techniques. And then the indicators will be used in different classification algorithms, and the most accurate model will be chosen for predicting the performance of students. Now, one thing that I'm going to want you guys to be clear about is there are quite many methods. We can use support vector mechanics, we can use linear regression or artificial neural nets. So we're going to try to explore a few of these options, and then the one the that gives us the highest degree of accuracy in line with our data sets. That's what we're going to go with. But right now, as things stand, it's mainly pointing towards artificial neural nets, what we shall say. So going into the next slide, basically, is we're going to conclude. The results obtained from the study actually show that artificial neural nets are capable of predicting the performance of students and can be used to develop a predictive model. Now, like I said earlier, almost all the data we have is pointing towards neural nets being the best method, the best framework to be able to fully predict. But we cannot fully rule out the other methods also. So depending on the different patterns and the data that we have, we shall be able to determine. But as things stand, we are going with neural nets. So moving into our references now, such an attempt. There are a few guys who have tried to maybe work on it. There are a lot of literature reviews that have been done with little accuracy, but it really depends on the set of variables that you do have that can influence the results. The results alone may, trying to map previous results alone can, in some cases, be an accurate indicator, but in others, it's not fully 100%. So these are part of the references if you would like to read slightly more about what we are working on. And yeah, thank you very much. So in acknowledgement, first of all, the group members will acknowledge ourselves for our input, and then the office of the registrar, for it's from him that we are getting the data that we need, and then our supervisors and the college as a whole. So thank you very much for listening.